Gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Chairman Diaz-Esposito for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the witnesses, thank you again for being here, for your service. I'm going to start with Sheriff Barnes. I'm a firm believer in community policing. I'm a firm believer as well in the broken windows theory, where you focus on minor crimes and it will reduce major crime. It was a policy of New York City during Commissioner Kelly's tenure, and it's something that I think truly and dramatically changed the face of New York City. When I talk about violent crime and we talk about violent crime, I think we know the issues that are plaguing the communities. But I think what we need to focus on is that when we want to talk about community policing and we want to talk about the fact that that has helped in reducing crime in cities and counties and towns throughout this country, community policing is a buy-in. It's a buy-in between law enforcement, it's a buy-in between prosecutors, and it's a buy-in between stakeholders. And when one of those parts aren't bought in, the community policing falls apart. So I believe that small business is, or really all business, but it's definitely small business, is the lifeblood of our communities. And one of the things that you talked about in your testimony has nothing to do with violent crime, but I think it tells such a story. You said that there was $94.5 billion in retail theft throughout this country, the largest in California. I'm sure New York is probably right behind. When we talk about community policing and we talk about failed policies, the failure to prosecute, we've literally allowed minor crimes, right? People often roll their eyes and say, you're fear-mongering, this is petty theft. Well, I don't believe that anybody who owns one of those stores that were victims of that $94.5 billion thinks that this is petty. So I guess my question to you is, I think I know the answer, but it seems that we have some differing opinions up here. How do you think that this needs to change? How do we help solve this problem? Because $94.5 billion is a huge sum of money, and I guarantee you that there are business owners throughout this country who have literally shut their doors, main streets that are shuttered because of the crime that we've allowed to occur in communities throughout this nation.
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. You're absolutely right. And unfortunately, in California, going back to Prop 47 that decriminalized property crime from felonies to misdemeanors resulted in exactly theft holidays. And I believe, I agree with you that the small family-owned stores suffered the most initially, and now what we're seeing are large businesses, the Walmarts, the Targets, the CVS's, they have the biggest voices. All these other mom pop shops, as you refer to them, they're single voice. But now that these larger corporations are being impacted, we're seeing the outcome of these bad policies in very urban areas. In San Francisco recently, we had Nordstrom's leave, CVS has left. Others have vacated that city, and I think we're starting to see a trend of, these are corporations, they're for profit. They don't make money, they will leave, and we're seeing that happen in major urban areas that have enacted bad public policy over the last several years.
Yep. You know, like going back home where Mr. Manguel and I live, I mean, there are CVS's and other stores, big stores, that have removed the shopping, you know, the things that you carry around to put stuff in because they don't want people just filling them up and walking out the door with them. That's not the America that we wanted to create. Commissioner Cox, I just want to go to guns for a minute. You may not have this information. We were told that your state has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. Do you have, how many guns were recovered by the Boston Police Department in 2022?
I'm not sure, I can't say precise, but I would say, goodness gracious, around 700 or 800.
Okay, and out of those 700 or 800 firearms that were recovered, how many of them were assault weapons?
I couldn't give it to you with it, you know.
If you had to say, is it 10%, is it 50%, is it 80%, is it 0%?
I would definitely not say it was 80%, but I would say, you know, there were a number of them.
Was it half?
I would have to look at the.
Okay, and the amount of shootings that you had in Boston, how many shootings did you have in Boston?
For 2022, non-fatal shootings,
No, shootings in general, non-fatal and homicides.
so let's see, 2022, we had, this chart only gives me year-to-date for a time period, it's not the whole year.
Okay, so just real quick, because my time's expired. Non-fatal shootings and homicides, how many do you think of those non-fatal shootings and homicides occurred with the use of a assault weapon?
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you because those are the ballistics.
Is it minimal? Is it half? Is it 80%? Or is it zero?
I would say it would be on the lower end of it, but.
Okay, it's on the lower end of it.
I would say, but
Right,
again,
so illegal handguns are the majority of the violence that's occurring in our communities.
illegal handguns, but the fact is there are, there are different kinds. And so you have to match up ballistics evidence to that, and I don't want to do those.
I understand that, but my point is that illegal handguns are what's killing people in this country. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired.